Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, I'll tell you, if any place had to replace BB Bistro, I am so glad it is Bean Rush Cafe. And we're here with Mark and Shannon Abrahams, who are the owners of Bean Rush in West Annapolis on we're 112 Annapolis Street, right?
Correct.
Say that again, Mark, real quick.
That's correct.
Wow, you seem to be qualified to run for mayor. What's with the accent? Is that?
I've spoken to Gavin, and he says I will be the next mayor, and I said no. I think I would.
I figure you probably slid that into some hidden legislation somewhere. So it must be.
Must be Australian.
Is it Australian?
No, it is Australian. Yes, it is.
Well, what about how long have you been?
Gosh, I think it's been about 12 years now, which is probably the longest I've ever been anywhere. So yeah, this is home.
Well, I want to say congratulations on opening a great business in West Annapolis. Whenever I'm over here, I know we did cover the elections, and I know we interviewed probably several different candidates out on the picnic benches out in front earlier. And Bean Rush is always one of the places to meet, and it's just a great location. But we wanted to sit down and talk with you guys and find out, what your background is, how we all started, and how Bean Rush became to be such a successful business that it is. I mean, are you guys in the coffee business initially? I mean, or was this
my husband, like you said, is Australian. So we met in Florida. We both used to work on yachts. And so I lived here in Annapolis, and I really loved the yachting industry. And so I moved down there. We met. We worked on yachts for about 5 years, and we figured we wanted to get out. We wanted to be back home with family and friends and things. And Australia, the coffee culture is just, there's, a coffee street or coffee shop on every street, probably 4. And so when we come home to visit in Annapolis, Mark was like, where's all the coffee shops? Where's all the independent coffee shops? And this was, 15 years ago, 13 years ago, we would come home and visit. And so we said, well, I'm going to open a coffee shop in Annapolis. And I thought, okay.
Yeah, so my actual hometown in Sydney, it's a place called Manly Beach, and it's about the size of downtown Annapolis, and there are 80 independent coffee shops, all mum and pop, all with their own little niche markets and clientele. And when I came to Annapolis, or even the States, there was that, they didn't have that culture, the coffee culture that Australia has. And it's a bit of a cult following, but it's a ritual to go out every single morning, grab a cup of coffee, have a meeting. And it's a very social, you sit down with ceramic cups, you socialize, and you do business meetings.
And start your day.
Yeah. And it was almost compulsory, so that was kind of the inspiration. But Shannon and I have both been in hospitality our entire lives, and we love it. It's one of those industries you either you love or you hate, and we just, customer service runs through our veins. I still get high off customer service. I love it.
Well, when you say you guys worked in the yachting industry on the yachts, are we talking about like crewing on yachts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay,
boy, there's a thankless job, or that can be.
It is very intense. We worked on the mega yachts with the big powerboats and the big sailboats, and the owners of these yachts were, they were very nice to us, but they can also be very demanding. We would do 30 days in a row, do 16-hour days, and just, when they say jump, you say how high.
It definitely prepared us for opening a business, because we would go months on end without having a day off, and we loved it. We loved it. We were in the Caribbean. We worked very hard, but it was wonderful. And then we just saved a lot of money. We always tell people it was like below deck, basically. If you've seen that show, we were chartering, and then we decided to come back here. And
we were suckers for punishment.
We were, yeah. And so we came back here, and Mark started looking for different locations and different spots for a coffee shop, and we stumbled across the empty strip mall in Crownsville.
Okay.
And then
I think originally I had bought a kiosk.
Oh yeah, no, he bought a kiosk from Florida, and we shipped it up here, and we were going to try to put it somewhere.
I stored it in my mother-in-law's and father-in-law's garage for about a year or two, which I'm sure we're not happy about, which we eventually sold. And I couldn't sit still, and I was thinking of brick and mortar locations. And before we, I told Shannon, I came home, I was like, I signed a lease, I've got a place.
I was like, wait, what? I didn't know we were that serious. Okay, all right. And we had a name because we thought about the name and Bean Rush Cafe. So, we thought, coffee bean and rushing and, through a day and kind of stuff. And so we'd kind of come up with that. And I didn't know we were going to just jump in and do it, but we did. Mark signed a lease and
it was a huge learning curve. We had never opened up our own business, but oh man, it was, had a lot of doors slammed in my face, went to a lot of different licenses, Anne Arundel permitting.
Learned a lot about that.
And it was a very character building exercise, but perseverance, grit, determination, resilience.
We used to have people stop by all the time because the strip mall was pretty much empty. There was a hair salon in there at one point, and then the rest of the strip mall was empty. And people would come in and they would, what are you guys doing? What do you, you're opening a coffee shop. There's a Wawa down the street. Why are you opening a coffee shop?
Right.
They would ask that all the time. And
tell them you're opening a Hooters. shut them up. And
then they turn around and walk out the door. I mean, believe it or not, though, over those 8 months of opening it, so many people stopped by, and those same people were there those first few days when we opened, which was just
the community.
amazing.
Well, a lot of people, when we first opened, walked in and they looked around and they said, you do know the history of this shopping center. Nothing ever lasts here. And I was like, oh, thanks, I do now.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
Yeah,
well,
I was like, well, hopefully we'll be here for a while. And even to this day, the contractors that did the build out, they were local guys, and I still joke with them about this. I'm still friends with them. They said, Wawa is 2 doors down the road. Like, what? Why are you opening coffee next to Wawa?
Good job. You put them out.
I know what the difference is. We're like, well, not quite us, but yeah. But then now, so we're coming up to, Crownsville's coming up to 10 years in June.
Crownsville is not, I live down here in Annapolis, and Crownsville is not the most convenient place for me, but I had a couple meetings there, and when I'm going up to Baltimore, if I'm going up the back way, I will stop there. And to a point, it's, to the benefit of you, it's kind of irritating because I'm always waiting in a long line when I get there. So, that's the mark of a true success story. And, for those that aren't aware, this is in sort of the outer reaches of Crownsville. But if you go past like the Ram's Head and then you zig off to the right and back.
So before you get on 97, if you make that right and you just travel down about, half a mile on the right is Crownsville.
Yeah, it's past Herald Harbor and roads and everything else. But it's difficult to spot sometimes. It's easy to miss it sometimes.
Yeah, people drive by it a lot.
Well worth the thing. And the fact that it's sort of in this middle of nowhere and it's always so busy is so exciting.
It is. It is.
You really obviously struck a chord with the local community and, whether the commuters or whatever they are. But just being there doesn't do it. It's the coffee. I'm enjoying a hot chocolate. Before we started recording, I was telling Shannon that I don't do coffee myself. Love the smell of it. If you could just make a machine that starts up at 5 in the morning.
We sell a candle.
We do sell a candle.
Does it smell as good as
like latte, yes. You can take it home, light it up, and off you go.
So 10 years in Crownsville?
10 years in Crownsville, and then about a year into Crownsville, Mark, he's definitely the entrepreneur of the two of us. I do the everyday, and Mark loves to, go out and find new things. So about a year in, he's like, all right, this is going well. Let's go for another one. And I was like, wait, what?
Okay, so it's the same conversation as I signed the lease.
Yes.
Wait, what?
So then he started kind of looking for places. And then, unfortunately, it's always really sad to see any business close, but unfortunately BB Bistro was, closing up. Mm-hmm. And we just thought, he thought this was just going to be a wonderful location. So we started coming here and checking out the area and, talking to other local businesses in West Annapolis. And then it just sort of worked, They were leaving, unfortunately, and we kind of stepped into this.
West Annapolis is a really neat little section of town because, you've got this generally it's one corridor of businesses right here on Annapolis Street, but it's backed up by just wonderful neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And they're so supportive of it. I think the neighbors are maybe a little bit snobby in that we want to keep away from the tourists and everything else. And, they like this neighborhood and people love to come here. The shops are unique. There's not one darn t-shirt shop on Annapolis Street. There is no franchise on Annapolis Street.
And that's kind of what we were looking for.
Until
as
you guys
well.
open the next Bean Rush down at the end.
We were looking for the same community that we had in Crownsville, and I saw that here. I saw West Annapolis. I saw the families and the people that were here, and I saw Annapolis Street. And there was a bit of turnover when we first came in with a couple of the shops on Annapolis Street, but we held strong. We love the street. It's got a good feel. It's got a good vibe, and like you said, John, the people down the road. And West Annapolis as a whole, as a community, has been so supportive.
Amazing. And when the pandemic hit, they were one of the first to reach out to us and just say, hey, what can we do to make sure that you guys go through this okay? And they helped out and made sure that they came to local businesses on Annapolis Street, which was amazing.
Which is great. And I'll tell you, West Annapolis is undergoing this whole resurgence and this renaissance, which is just going to be fabulous. I mean, you've got MRE Partners that has done a lot of development on the commercial end. I know 2 doors down away from you, you've got a new project going in, which unfortunately Agave pulled out. But
there's no restaurant quite yet. But
there's going to be a restaurant there around the corner from you. You've got RAR Brewery, who's going to open up their brew pub. Which would probably be outstanding for you guys. You look at across the street diagonally, you've got Flamont, you've got just Evelyn's a couple blocks down the road, and it's just this is a wonderful location. I think you guys need to hold on to your seats because I think this area is really going to boom in the next year and a half or 2 years. But what's your background? I mean, how did you learn to coffee? Or don't you?
Oh no, my entire life has been in fine dining restaurants and coffee shops in my hometown in Manly. And I have a Bachelor of Business and diploma in hospitality. I actually went to university in Sydney, but I love restaurants. I love the atmosphere. I love the camaraderie. I love the esprit de corps. I love, what happens in a shift stays in a shift. And, to this day, a lot of my friends, when you do a restaurant shift together, you almost go into war and you go into battle. And then at the end of the day, when you sit down and have a beer, it's amazing.
It's not that bad when you work at Bean Rush. You worked at a very different type of restaurant.
I remember the times in some of those fine dining restaurants, man, we used to hustle, and that esprit de corps and that mateship and that team, at the end of the shift, you're stronger for it.
Way back when, I tended bar for about 4 years, and very, very similar. I mean, it wasn't a high-end restaurant, but I mean, you grow into a family with your coworkers. We could throw things from one end of the bar to the other and know that somebody's going to put their hand up and catch it.
Yes, exactly.
And at the end of the night, you always live for that. You kicked all the patrons out, and the guy that owned the bar, it was a sort of a chain of bars up in Philadelphia, said, okay, here's the deal. You can drink anything you want except for Perrier, because that stuff's expensive. From 2 a.m. until 4 a.m. when we're cleaning up. So it was, we would sit there and drink, but he said the Perrier was just so expensive, that was hands off, but you could have any of the booze you wanted.
My granddad actually, one of the restaurants I used to work at, I used to have to walk along the beach in Sydney to get there. And my granddad always said to me, he's like, when are you going to get a real job? When are you going to put a suit on and travel to the city? And, I said, Granddad, I love what I do. I make pretty good money. It's such an amazing, hospitality. It's in my blood, and I love it. And I'm, hanging out with my friends, making good money. But he always wanted me to put a suit on and go to work in the city and just grind. And I just couldn't do it. I never did. And I actually did work a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 for about 6 months of my life. And I hated it.
How many suits do you have?
I've got one, and it's a special. It's the wedding suit.
You've moved to the right town. I mean, that's one thing that I love about it. I mean, I came from outside of Philadelphia, and I love the casualness of Annapolis. And I love that there is such a diverse group of people. I mean, you've got, racial diversity and everything else, but you've got wealth diversity, which is, you can turn around. I mean, I sat in the Ebb Tide when it was here at one point with,
Ebb Tide.
and did shots and beers with Steve Forbes, who was visiting. And I'm like, why is Steve Forbes at the Ebb Tide? And he's like, well, I was here on my boat, and my mate, or one of the mates, said this was a good dive bar, and I wanted to go to a dive bar. I say, give him a raise. I mean, he did well with you. But it's, Annapolis is such a neat little town, and we are so supportive of small businesses. Mm-hmm. Where are you guys going down the road? I mean, I know that Shannon, you said, well, okay, so I signed the lease, and you did what? And hey, we're got a new place. We're going where?
So at West Annapolis, and so we had, it's actually coming up to 8 years in June for West Annapolis. We actually opened the cafes 2 years and 2 days apart from each other.
You know what? Pardon my language, that's ballsy.
It was, and we had just had a baby, so our baby, our second child was born in April, and then we opened the cafe in June. It was a mess.
It was crazy.
It was insane.
People said, "What are you doing?" The baby came out. We're running 2 businesses, and it was, to be honest, it was such a nightmare because we were concentrating on Crownsville, and then opening up Annapolis. Shannon just gave birth, and
again, the yachting prepared us for that. So we just worked nonstop.
it was like just insane. And I think we came home and I think we cried for like 6 months straight. Every day.
I look back on those times though, and just, they were amazing, and we worked really well together. And, we had an amazing community that came out and helped us, and people from Crownsville that would come over and visit in Annapolis, and, people that lived closer that were happy. And, I look back and I think, how did we do it? But I'm so glad that we did.
Yeah.
And then luckily we kind of let everything breathe for a while, and, just watched the business grow, and we're able to, tweak things and make changes and add new menu items and perfect the menu items. And
well, that's so rewarding when you see your business grow.
Yes.
And I mean, there are ups and downs. I mean, I'm sure there were mistakes made when opening this, and there
sometimes
still
I
will
wonder,
be,
like I said, how we did it that
plenty
way.
of success stories as well. And the thing that I really like about Bean Rush Cafe is, I mean, you can sit there and say, we've been referring to it as a coffee shop, and it's so much more. I mean, it is the cafe is the big word on the very end, and I mean, the baked goods, the sandwiches, it's. Both places are wonderful. I mean, and most of the food, all the food is really made right here, right?
Yeah, we try to do like a bit of a middle ground with that. So when I was on the boat, I was the chef. And so I brought over a lot of my like very fast casual recipes, because we didn't want to create a place where you had to sit down and order and wait 10 minutes. We wanted to, or 20 minutes, whatever it is. We wanted to create something that you could walk in, order a sandwich, order coffee, and be out in 5 minutes. So, a lot of the recipes, the cranberry almond chicken salad I used to make all the time, the banana bread, these are all recipes that I made when I was working on the boat, and then I just brought them over. And so, we make a lot of things from scratch. Not everything, because then we really would be here,
sure.
From, 3 in the morning to whatever.
But be introduced to your kids.
Yeah, pretty much. So we try to make a lot of things in-house. And then, if not, we bring things in locally, and, some of the other stuff comes in from different bakers in the area as well.
Right. How frequently, are you, as the business has grown, and I can see the success of it. You've got, tons of employees and, and everything else. Are you in the business every single day?
So I am physically here quite a bit. I actually still am in here training, making, food and lattes and things. And then I break things throughout the day. And then I call my husband, and then he comes in after hours and fix all the things that I break throughout the week, the day, things like that. But so we have a little bit of a yin and yang. I physically am in the business quite a bit. And then Mark does all the kind of outside, a lot of admin stuff and a lot of fixing. Because now we have the third one as well at the Baltimore Washington Medical Center, which is like a kiosk in the hospital there.
Oh,
and
I didn't realize
in
you
fact,
had that.
a year today. Which is very exciting.
Wow.
So that is another one that he spends time fixing and designing. He did that, that took him a few months to kind of design and get set up as well.
You talked about independent mom and pop coffee shops back in Australia, and we've lost a couple here in town. And,
really sad.
And it's, there's nothing homey or welcoming to a Starbucks to me, or to Dunkin' Donuts, or...
Yeah, part of my soul dies with corporate America. Don't even get me started. But the small independent coffee shop, and don't get me wrong, Starbucks has introduced specialty coffee into America, and they're a great company and whatnot. But especially in the Australian market, I think the average Joe is willing to, to give someone a go who's, would you rather give your money to someone that's put their heart and soul into something, or a corporation?
I think as you get older too, you realize how important that is. When you're younger, you go anywhere. You just, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, whatever it is. I think personally, as I got older, I realized how important it is to keep that money in your community and to see the community grow and to be part of local businesses.
Well, you do. We just paid, a couple bucks for a cup of hot chocolate here, and whatever the couple quarters profit that you make. You're gonna, spend that next door at, Always Ice Cream.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of small business, that it does really keep it here. So I didn't realize that you had that third location in the hospital. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
I can't sit still, and my wife.
It's always one project after the next. In fact, it was really sad. We were looking to open a pizza shop in downtown Annapolis right when the pandemic hit. We were about to sign a lease we were about to buy the building in March in downtown, and we just had to pull out. And he was in the process of wanting to open a pizza shop, and it was too scary. I mean, everything was so scary at this point, so we had to shut that down and close it off. And since then, the building's been sold and things, but we've had to move on from that, and that's where the third project came in. He said, "Okay, well, I'll open another Bean Rush," and so that's where that one went.
Is there a fourth location in the works?
No.
Oh, sorry, wait a minute. Let me stop. Shannon, hang on. Shannon shuts for a second. Hey, Mark, is there a fourth location?
I just, I just can't sit still. I'm always pushing, and Shannon has to calm me down.
If someone comes with a good building, he might say yes, but no.
But to be honest, we see our kids getting older, and priorities change. We want to spend more time with the kids, take a step back from the brick and mortar locations, and you only get that opportunity once with the kids getting older and growing, and so we want to concentrate more on family time, which is a beautiful thing.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
When they start asking you, "Mommy, I don't want you to go to work on Saturday. I want you to stay home with me," it's really hard to, to do that.
So. And I mean, the hospitality is it can be a 24/7.
It is a 24/7.
It's 24/7, but I mean,
it is 24/7.
There's no such thing as a 40-hour week, even despite the fact that you may only be open, 35 hours. It goes well beyond that. I noticed on your website, and the website that people want to check it out is beanrushcafe.com. Pretty simple. But you do instructions. You've got like a course, Mark, that you're teaching, or you? Again,
that was another project, John, that I can't sit still, and I love teaching coffee, and I love opening up businesses and kind of moving forward. And definitely the masterclass was another project of mine that people can reach out. I had someone yesterday as well, and they. It's for, I guess, entrepreneurs that want to push the boundaries and open up their own location, and I can give, consulting, advice. I've been through the ringer 3 times, and I feel like I'm pretty well versed on.
I was going to say, you've been there, done that. I mean,
that's what I really enjoy. I get high off that
that's got to be a godsend to somebody that's opening up something that because where the tripwires are that you're going to stumble and fall and
that's through learning as well. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I actually enjoy making mistakes because I just learn, and I grow. But doing that the hard way, knocking on doors, having people slam doors in my face, I just I keep knocking. I'm like, I must be pretty annoying to some people, but I just keep pushing and keep knocking, and I don't know.
Yeah, the masterclass I think is really helpful for people that might want to get advice on all this stuff. Sometimes it is better to learn and make mistakes yourself, but it's definitely super helpful to ask someone, hey, things as simple as, you should not put the air conditioning over on that side because it's going to affect, the way it sits next to your refrigerator. There's just lots of things that we learned, in the beginning.
A funny story, and how long have you lived in the area?
I've lived here my whole life. I went to Broadneck and Towson and the whole thing, but Mark has only been here about 12 years.
Do you remember Cadillac Ranch at the Annapolis Town Center?
Yeah, of course I remember, yes.
Okay, a huge engineering fail. This was like the most amazing, I think it's hysterical, but if you ever went into Cadillac Ranch before it's open, and
you had the bull.
It had the bull, but it smelled like wet, dirty underwear. And what they did is they had 24 Fitness that was next door, and their locker rooms had a vent that was right by their air intake for Cadillac Ranch.
Oh no!
So you literally had the dirty wet underwear and everything else going up. It's getting sucked down into Cadillac Ranch, and people couldn't figure it out. Finally, some engineer said, "Hey, well, here's your exhaust and your intake," and they had to reconfigure the things to get rid of it. But I mean, that was one of their first.
These are some of the mistakes. I mean, I think one of the big mistakes in Crownsville was we put our the air conditioning heater over top of the sandwich prep table, and so the cafe was always running at a hot. We couldn't figure out why, and we realized we had to move that. Do you remember? And we had the big hole in the wall. But just little things you just don't think about. You don't know until you do it.
Yeah, no, and we definitely made a lot of mistakes, but you grow from that.
Yeah, we learned, and the second time was easier, and the third time was even easier.
You just got to be flexible and resilient and move fast.
Make a plan. As soon as you make a mistake, move forward and make a plan.
Make a plan.
Absolutely. Well, this is a great location. Anybody that it's even anywhere in Annapolis or the area, it's well worth the trip over to West Annapolis. First of all, it's great parking, despite the fact that there are no parking lots or parking garages. I mean, you can always find a spot on the street or one of the side streets very easily. I'm about 4 cars away here on a busy Tuesday morning, and if you're up in Crownsville, up there at the address is I've got written down here 1015 Generals Highway. As you're heading north on Generals Highway, it's on the right. It's tucked back in a little shopping center that sits back off the road a little bit, just past the shuttered Wawa.
Yes, which is going to be the new fire station. They've knocked it down just recently.
If they finally get the money to do that, that'll be exciting.
Yes.
But Mark and Shannon Abrahams, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for bringing Bean Rush Cafe. I mean, I was sad to see BB Bistro go, but I mean, it was things do turn over, and it's always great when you see a locally owned business that comes in that, as you mentioned, just has a quality product. How do you make the little like Christmas trees and the swirly things in
the latte art?
I make a lot of coffee. And I still, to this day, when somebody walks in, I know this sounds corny, but sometimes when they walk in, I'm like, I'm going to make this person the best coffee they've ever had. And the Rosettas and the Love Hearts are just years of
figuring how to swirl it around. And
so when you do latte art, you have to steam the milk correctly, and if you don't steam the milk correctly, you can't do the latte art. And a lot of the big corporations like Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks have fully automatic machines that grind, tamp the coffee, and steam the milk, and there's no control, which breaks my heart. Coffee should be something special. And when somebody's paying $5 for a cup of coffee, you should have the knowledge and the skill.
You're also paying for a product too.
Yeah.
I mean, as opposed to, if I wanted a cup of coffee, I could get Maxwell House at home.
Yes.
And put a scoop in a cup of water and put some hot water in it.
Not that I want to badmouth Dunkin' or Starbucks, because, like I said, they're good corporations in America. Corporations, but. The barista presses a button and it does everything for them. And that kind of, breaks my heart a little bit. Coffee is something special, and it does take skill and passion.
Well, it has. Coffee's like a little bit like music. It brings people together.
Yeah.
As meals do. It's a place to meet new friends. It's a place to meet up
so
with
many
old friends.
new friends. We have customers that have married baristas that have babies. We have so many love stories at Bean Rush as well.
Well, I had a note to mention, but I mean, you've got your frequent flyer cards that are going there, and again, in 10 years in Crownsville and 8 years here.
8 years here.
8 years
June,
here.
yeah.
I look behind me on the wall, and all the pictures of where the Bean Rush cards.
Where you have been.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't catch the pun on that.
Where have you been? So you take your Bean Rush card and let us know.
But it shows to the hominess, if that's the right word,
community
of the business, that you've got customers that are on the trip of their life in Rome, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, I got to take a picture of my Bean Rush card in front of the Coliseum.
Ever having a bad day, I look at that wall up there and I just think, it's emotional. It brings me to tears. It is. People traveling all around the world, and they pull out that Bean Rush card.
And they get so excited, and they send it to us, and they're like, Mark and Shannon, look at this one. And we're always like, that one's amazing.
That's awesome. You guys have built quite a business between the two locations. Thank you for coming to Annapolis. I think it's
Thank you for having us.
Hopefully I'll never get to experience your third one in the hospital, but that's...
Yes, we always tell people we don't want to see you there. If you're there, okay, but we don't want to see you there.
But I think it's great. I mean, you're spreading it and people know where you are. And again, everybody come to 112 Annapolis Street. If you haven't been to West Annapolis in a long time, come check it out. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's going to be in probably 18 to 24 months, it's going to be a really exciting place to be. If you live anywhere in Annapolis, it's easy to bike to. You can drive to it. There's plenty of free parking. And most importantly, you've got great coffee and a great atmosphere at Bean Rush Cafe. Thanks to Shannon and Mark Abrahams.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the time.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.